Okay, so we've reviewed some Canva things, we've looked at some new Canva things, but now here's sort of the next step. This is the independent activity slash homework. So independent activity slash homework is make a movie using Canva. Now, making a movie in Canva is a little bit different than making a normal movie in iMovie where you're sort of importing clips, still images, putting titles over them. Functions a little bit differently. Now, this could actually be very beneficial because working with students, this may be a simple entree into movie making where you're not dealing with things like worrying about how long frames are, you're not dealing with big transitions. In a lot of ways, something like this to get the effect of a movie, basically with motion pictures, animations, voiceover, this may be a better way to go about introducing video production into a class, or alternately, a way to literally hear student voice based on something that's essentially a presentation with a little bit of a few extra elements into it. So using Canva video is not real video production, but it's a great way to kind of introduce that aspect, hear the students, have it be more interesting, more engaging. You then can either collect them in Google Drive, share links via Canva, or what we do a lot of times at Heathcote with these types of things is what we'll do is we'll have the kids download the project as a final movie, put it into a shared folder, and then we'll post it on YouTube so that people can watch. So here is a sense of what a video with Canva might look like. So I'm in Canva. I'm actually going to go into my projects because now that we've been making this, we know that we have things in a folder and we want to make sure that we're always saving these things in a folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in and I'm actually not in the right account. I'm double checking this. These are things we always double check. I'm in my Christopher Excel one. I want to switch to my Scarsdale Schools one because, again, that's the one where I'm going to have all these elements, which is going to matter when we start talking about things like animation. And I'm going to go to projects and I'm going to go into my STI 6010 folder because now what I can do is now when I create a design, I'm not going to just create a design, I'm going to add new. And I add new design. I'm going to create a new design. That's going to create it right in this folder. So I make sure I have all my stuff organized. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to do the video. Now they say educational video because we're an education account. It doesn't have to be. It's essentially just video. There's no real difference between website, educational website. It's just kind of because we're connected through the educational platform and we're verified as an educational district. That's why those things have education on them. But let's start with that. It's going to take a second to create the design. Open up a second tab, just like everything else. Going to look very similar to a presentation, even. Still going to have templates. Now, these templates are a little bit different in the sense that I still don't necessarily recommend you using them. You're welcome to try them for this independent activity, but you're also going to run into similar issues where they don't kind of match up and align with how you are thinking about how you want it to look and sound. You're welcome to try them if you want to practice. But just to show you what they do is they're not just a single page. It's essentially 4 pages that you would add voiceover to. So templates in video are a little bit more detailed because they're a narrative. They're sort of attempting to create this visual narrative. You can apply to all 4 pages. You don't have to. Similarly, you could look at video presentation for things that aren't educational. So they have different templates if it wasn't an educational template. This is a business company presentation. They obviously change the backgrounds and the text and the graphics and things of that nature. As you cycle through, you'll see there's different, business meeting, slideshow video, corporate videos. So there'll be different templates with that. Just like anything, you're welcome to try them, but you're going to run into issues where you want to change things in a way that it doesn't allow you to because it's locked into this template. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to go super simple with this, is I'm just going to add text. And for this, I'm going to drop this text in. The reason I'm going to drop this text in is because let's say this is the title of my video. And instead of talk to us, we're going to call it STI 6010. And we're going to do, actually, I'm not going to do all that. I'm going to do summer 2023. And then this is going to be my email address. Now, this is a movie, so now we can add other elements. When I come into elements, I can add a, let's say, picture like that. So as that loads, if I want to get people to subscribe, that's going to be that animated GIF that's going to show up. It's going to sort of flex like that. Now, that may be more than I want, but I can delete that. Now that's that. I don't want to get rid of that. So you can toss in, you can toss in these different elements now, mixing and matching, much like a slideshow, but now you're going to be tie all these things together with voiceover and things of that nature and have it sort of run consecutively and run automatically. So let's say I do that, but I'm going to slide this over so it just doesn't disrupt my text. Now, again, that purple is sort of like, you can go outside that purple. That's kind of letting you know that there's a margin around it. So it's like, somebody may be watching this on a laptop, someone may be watching it on a certain type of television screen, a smart board, using an old school projector that's more square than rectangular. So those purple bars are sort of just kind of letting you know where you're like safe, where you definitely know nothing's going to get cut off. So I put that in there. I'm going to add a page. I'm going to add let's say a computer, or let's say iPad. I'm going to add an iPad. I have graphics, I have photos, frames, all these different things. I'm just going to grab a graphic of an iPad. But it's a video, so maybe what I want to do is I want to add some animation, but we're going to add a little bit of different animation. To take this animation, I could add your general sort of wipe, or, come in, go out, whatever it may be. But I'm going to create an animation. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this. And for fun, I'm just going to drag it like that for right now. And then we'll stick it back in the middle. What that's going to do is that's going to create that flow. Now that's the original. I can smooth it out. So it'll still go on that path, but it'll make it less hiccupy. Or I can keep it steady so it just kind of has a steady rhythm throughout, kind of following that path. I can speed it up, make it go faster, make it go slower. So that's this added element to the video. Say done. Now that's just 2 slides. Kind of like a slideshow, but we have these different elements where now we're talking about, we're 10 seconds into this video, a little bit more. 5.7 seconds on the first one, 5 seconds on the second one. Now that 5.7, that's a little bit of that AI where it's figuring based on the amount of text and that graphic in there, it's probably going to take a little bit more than 5 seconds to read. Now, if I were to come over here and add text, let's add a heading and say, flying iPad. And I'll move that up here. Correct my spelling. And you notice it does give you those red lines, like anything, right? Flying iPad. It may or may not auto adjust the time. Now you can then make individual slides. One thing we've done in these contexts with students is, let's say we come to a picture like a slide like this, a section of the video like this. We may say, listen, document your own photos. And what you're going to do is you're going to put in just that photo of the person, the place, the thing that you want to talk about, right? So let's say it's the computer lab. And on this particular slide, or in this particular portion, this particular 5 seconds of my movie, I want to talk about just the computer lab. I can still come up here because maybe with this photo, you don't mind if you lose a little bit on the edges because we're thinking about a full screen television where we're kind of focusing on the rule of thirds, right? Where you're sort of like breaking the screen into horizontal thirds and sort of vertical thirds, saying, I don't want anything sort of way on the outside. I kind of want the core idea right in the middle of the photo. So I have this. What you might end up doing then is having a script of a voiceover that goes with just this photo. And then I'll add another one. And let's say here, we'll do this. We'll put this picture in. Yep, there it is. Make it a little bit larger. We'll have it fill the screen. And this is a simple way where you essentially are you can take multiple elements like I did here, where you have text and a flying animated thing. But you could also go super clean and super simple and just say, hey, I have one picture. I want to just talk to it. I just want to reference it, right? So right now, this is a 20.7 second video. So I can hit play on this. And it's going to show me this movie that I have made. Now it is running, it is stitching them together. So it's automatically putting those slides together as not, I don't have to click, I don't have to do anything. It's making it go by itself. Now I'm going to close just to get out of that. What I might want to do is click those three dots and duplicate that page, but then press and hold on it and drag it all the way to the end, because maybe that's going to be my intro and my outro, and I'm going to have those together and bookended. So now I have this 26.5-second piece that basically has a title slide on the front and the back, a couple pictures in the middle. What it doesn't have is voiceover. So this is where it's a little bit, weird is not the right word. You just kind of have to know where stuff is. So if you come up to share, you have more down here. And if you click more, you have a whole bunch of options. You could send somebody a view only link. You can get a QR code with the address. You move to the folder, whatever. The big thing is you have present and record. This is where then you're going to start attaching voiceover to this video. So let's see if it works while I'm also on Zoom recording this video. It may give me some trouble with using the microphone for two apps at the same time, but this is what you would do: is you would press present and record yourself while talking, share a video link with students, right? Now, it takes a second to load. Go to the recording studio. We can set up the camera so you can have your little person, your face in the circle. We're going to allow access to the microphone, so everything's allowed. All right, so we've got everything working now. Essentially what I did was I went up to here and I made sure microphone was there. I had to go to site settings to allow it. And now everything should be good. So now we're just going to reload, make sure everything's working. We'll go share. We'll go to more, present and record. We'll go to the recording suite. We'll use a FaceTime camera, the external microphone, which is this. I'll start recording and you'll see where this video goes. Now, if you had different cameras, you could also turn off no camera. If you had other cameras, let's say you had a document camera you prefer to use, things like that. If you had a webcam, it would say it there. If you had other microphones, like you could use your built-in microphone. This external microphone is essentially my headphone microphone. It might say snowball microphone, something like that. So I'm going to start recording. Gives me a countdown. Welcome to the STI 6010 Canva class. We are now recording video and the voiceover 2-hour movie. This particular portion of the movie is about a flying iPad, because iPads always get thrown around the room. What room, you ask? Well, it's the computer lab here at Heathfield. And as you can see, we have plenty of space to throw around floating iPads, as well as carpets, rugs, couches, and other accoutrements that you will normally find in a classroom. And we use these types of things to ignite our presentations and make them more interesting, have them be engaging. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you for joining us for the STI 6010 course. So now what I've done is I've basically recorded this. Now I'm going to pause, and I've paused that. So a little bit of that extra voiceover has been recorded on this, because as I'm talking to you and explaining, you'll see it. So we've got the two windows. But essentially, hopefully you get the idea about how you kind of record these things. We'll press done. It's going to take a minute. This is important. What's also important is you got to keep the browser window open. Now, this happens frequently in different programs. For instance, when you're uploading photos or videos to Google Drive from a mobile device, and if you're in the Google Drive folder and you're selecting all the photos and videos to upload to that folder, you'll see them start to progress. You need to leave those types of things open, so that, because when you close the window, it'll close the process. It'll cut off what it's doing. So this is, some apps are different, like WeVideo. When you're finished with a WeVideo project, it'll tell you that it's exporting and that you don't need to keep the window open. So it's important to read these boxes when they show up, because different boxes, different programs will have different requirements or expectations for whether the window can be open, whether it can be closed, things of that nature. For instance, uploading things to YouTube, once it's uploaded, you can close the window. It'll tell you, but it might not be ready on the channel for 10 minutes while it processes. This is a particular situation where, because we're still working inside of this one tab, we need to keep this open. And there we go. So now my recording is ready, right? So that is a link to the video that is now 53 seconds long. I can copy it, I can save and edit, I can download it, meaning I can give this link to somebody, like a public to the web type of share link. I can download it so I'd have like an MP4 video file that I could upload to YouTube, something like that, or I could just save and exit. Now that puts me back here, and as you can tell, it's showing me where this little window is, and I'm always going to be in that bottom corner. Now that's something important to recognize and understand, because what do I have in that bottom left corner? I have my contact info, I have my title, I have things. So this is why we do this. This is why it's okay and it's good to practice these things, so you can start to figure out, like, oh, if my little face is always going to be down here, I don't want to put my text there, I put my text up here. Things that you don't have to have the face. When you go to record, you could choose no camera and it won't record your face. But if you wanted to have this as a way to connect yourself to what you're explaining to your students, if your students were doing this project, maybe they don't see it, they choose none, and they just record an explanation of each picture. They tell a story, they teach a narrative. Be up to you. So and then I can also obviously close this, and I can keep going, and I can keep adding slides, and I have, I can re-record it. So I have that one version. So now what are we doing? So your assignment now that you've watched this, what I'm also going to do is there's going to be a link to a Canva official video, which is that you can click on. It'll open up a YouTube video where you'll actually see their version of how to create videos. I want you to think about two videos in two contexts. If you made a video, let's say it's 5 slides long, explaining something like similar to what we've already created, like you've made these newsletters, these welcome back letters, these syllabus, whatever it is. If you were to break that up into, let's say, 5 slides and then narrate over it, because maybe you post that to your YouTube channel and your students can watch that, how would that look like? What would that look like? Where would you break up those things? You're free to use the same content you've already created, meaning if you created an open house sort of one pager for parents, use the same information. But how might you break that up now into a video format where you narrate, where maybe they're not reading as much on the slide, maybe you're showing a picture of the classroom, you're showing just a picture of the prep schedule for elementary school. How might you repurpose that content into a different form now, into video form? So that's one video to make. The second video to make, similarly, what would be a video template or exemplar, like mentor text, for a project you would want your students to do? So let's say you were doing a project on, dividing fractions, if you're a math teacher. 5 videos, or 5 slides rather, quick explanation, almost like a video mini lesson that they can refer back to, that you give to them, so that you can then tell them, now I want you to make your own video. How do you explain the process of dividing fractions? Then they have to make their own video. So think of it, you could also, for elementary school, think of it in terms of like immigration. You tell in 5 slides a quick story of an immigrant that you know about, because maybe your 5th graders for their immigration unit are going to have a handful of pictures of somebody they interview who's an immigrant to this country, and then the 5th graders are going to narrate over that and tell the story. Now, we do this in 5th grade at Heathcote. So far, we've used Adobe Video, but it's the same premise. So what I'll do is there'll be another link where you can actually click and see sort of the Adobe Video version of the same concept, which is essentially talking over an image. Now, Adobe Video does it a little bit, in my opinion, I think a little bit cleaner, I like it a little bit better, but this is how Canva does it, and that's fine. So you'll basically have 2 videos that you're going to make before we meet next class. One where you are explaining something to your audience, whether it's parents, colleagues, students, whatever it may be. You can do a new explainer video, totally new content, or you're welcome to repurpose the tutorial, the one pager that you already have done for homework. You're welcome to repurpose that content. Obviously, you're not going to slap on a ton of text and read the text, but how might you visually display that now that you're narrating? You know, how might you add more detail with your voice, but have some animation in it, things like that. That's one video. A second video would be if you were to assign your students a project, you know, tell me 5 things you know about the American Revolution. They have to make 5 slides, 5 pictures, talk about 5 facts. You make one version of that that would act as the mentor text or the baseline for the students as they would be creating something. So you're essentially creating 2 things. One is something for yourself to give out to others. One is to give out to students to use as an example for a project they might create. So you're thinking about video in 2 different ways. How you as a professional will use it to convey a message, but also where does this fit my curriculum? Where does this fit my content area? How can I have students create this? And how am I going to know how to answer student questions? Well, here's how. I've just created the exact same version of the thing I want you to create. So check out those videos, the Canva video and the Heathcote immigration videos to get a little bit of help, reference points, inspiration, things like that. Make those 2 videos, and then I will see you on Tuesday for the final session, and we'll review these. We'll answer a ton of questions, do a ton of sharing. There's not going to be a whole lot of new content on Tuesday. It's more about just making and creating them. All right. Thanks a lot. Let me know. Feel free to email me. Have any questions. See you then.